Welcome to another Kings of War Battle Report. Game night. Twilight Kin versus Orcs. 2,300 points. The scenario was kill.
Jeff was kind enough to email me his list from last night, and so I'm going to read it off for you. 2 Impalers regiments with the Scream Shard. Both of them have it. A Blade Dancers regiment. A horde of Kindred Tall Spears with the Staying Stone. A Gargoyle troop. 3 regiments of Butchers. A troop of Shadowhounds. A regiment of Abyssal Horsemen, a Mind Screech, the Shadow Hulk, Soulbane, mounted with the Shard and Blade of the Beast Slayer, and 2 Crones, both with Drain Life 6.
I know it might be boring to you guys, but I am pretty dedicated to playing Orcs for the next couple of months till I get ready for this tournament. And to that end, this is my 2,300 point Orc army. 3 regiments of Morax, all with skull poles. An axe horde with the Brew of Sharpness, and it has a skull pole. 2 great axe hordes, 1 with the Potion of the Caterpillar. 6 regiments of Orklings, a war drum. 3 Crudgers, 1 with Gakamax banner and a skull pole. 3 Crushers, all mounted, 1 with Mace of Crushing, 1 with the Sword of Slashing, and 1 with nothing.
All right, the only one to blame for this terrible terrain this game is me, because I set up all 3 tables. So what I did was I put these 2 pieces of impassables too close together. So basically the game degenerated into 3 little battles, which is okay sometimes, but it can't really bring your army to bear, when you've done that to yourself with the terrain. So I'll probably download some Epic Dwarf maps next time and start using those as a better guide for terrain. So what I had down here was I had a unit of Morax, 2 regiments of Orklings, the Crudger, and he has the Gakamax banner, so he has the wild charge, and a axe horde with the Brew of Sharpness. Next to them is the war drum. So I picked up something yesterday listening to one of the old Countercharge podcasts, and Eric was talking about using the war drum to support the Morax because their morale is -15. Well, with the war drum there, they're -17. So I plopped the war drum in between 2 of the Morax units to radiate some rally love around each side. Over on the on opposing that end of that corridor is a unit of Abyssal Horsemen, the Shadow Hulk, and a Soulbane, and he had the Blade of the Beast Slayer, and of course I have no beast in my army, so that was a useless item, at least for this game. But he's played against Sean before, and the Blade of the Beast Slayer is pretty good against that stupid Coral Giant. In the middle corridor, I had 2 units of Moraxes flanked, and they were flanking my main unit of Great Axe. The Great Axe unit there had the Potion of the Caterpillar, which was dumb. That was the only place on the whole table that had no terrain. That was a dumb move. But they were there. Also, 3 troops of Orklings were there. 2 of the Crudgers, and all 3 Crushers are there, located in that. And again, because of the terrain on the very far end, all I could put was my last Great Axe Sword and one of my units of Orklings. On his far end, he had his Shadowhounds and the Gargoyles, plus 1 Butcher regiment over there to oppose it. Then the next thing you get coming this direction was a unit of Impalers, the Mind Thirst, the Kindred Tall Spears, and then the other white unit is another unit of Butchers. Behind them is a unit of Impalers, and behind the wall there is his unit of Blade Dancers. I re-recorded this because I didn't have his list to start, so I did it so now I can give you all the correct names for all of the models. All right, the deployment picture was at the end of my turn 1. This is the start of turn 2 for Jeff. And over here on the left flank, his Shadowhounds and the Gargoyles moved around to start flanking me. Also, one of the Butchers came with them. Regiment of Butchers came with them around the ruin there. Right in the front, he pushed everything forward right back into my face. I pushed things forward pretty far forward, but he pushed everything right into my face too. So we were going to have a slugfest in this game. It wasn't going to be one of those dancing for 3 turn games. This was going to be a straight in your face zap. He moved his Butchers up very boldly to try and cut me off there, to keep me from getting some easy charges. Because I mean, really, this list is. I mean, I could, I know it looks weird, but I'm actually in position to charge some stuff with my great axe horde now. Probably they would probably get flanked, but I mean, right there, I could just pivot the Orclings out of the way and go straight in on something. But anyway, he pushed everything up right in my face there, and I was going to have to make some decisions on the following turn. You can see here just a little bit close up picture. The brain looking thing is the Mind Thirst. And so I was able to get up and get an angle on it to be able to charge it. I don't know why he did it. I think maybe because he didn't want to pay the cover penalty for shooting over his own guy's head. So I think maybe that's why I put it up there. But it just, I think it was kind of vulnerable where it was at, because of the mounted heroes that I had. So in my turn 2, I used the wild charge I had, and along with the general with Gakamax banner to get a sweet, huge, long wild charge into his Abyssal Horseman. Now, I know that wasn't probably going to work as well, but the thing is if I stood there, he was going to charge me, and so I decided to try to get my licks in and fight him where I wanted to fight, because I didn't want him to get around me in any way, shape, or form and try to roll up my line on this end, because that's where all of his combat power was, on this end down here, as far as the units that could just slog through these orcs. So what I decided to do was kind of choke him there at that the same problem I had terrain. He has it too, and try to get him into that choke point. And as you can see, my big horde of orc axe can block up a huge hole on the table, and that was the plan here, was to try to keep this unit of cavalry and that giant or Shadow Hulk from getting around my flank. So as you can see, the terrain is really piled together, and he has 4 combat units there, plus one of his units of butchers. One butcher he moved forward as chaff, and I went ahead and just slaughtered it with a unit of Morax and a unit of Orclings and one of the Crutchers. I'm sorry. The 2 of the Crushers, one charged the Mind Thirst and grounded it and kept it from throwing spells, and one charged one of his magic users to keep it from throwing spells as well. So here we are at this point. The biggest problem is that the Crusher on the right here, he is facing off against a unit of Blade Dancers, and they really have a hard time hurting him. But they got so many attacks. I think he hit me 18 times or something absurd. I think he killed that guy this turn. So anyway, those guys, I mean, lots of hit melee 3 guys with elite. They can really pile on the hits, I have to admit. Over on the left end, I just angled that unit of Great Axe there slightly, and charged the Orclings into the Shadow Hounds. That was just to get them out of my way so that I could reposition. But like I said, I set the train up, and it is jam-packed because that guy's on a wall with a passable in front and another set of terrain right in front of him, a difficult terrain, before you even get to the hills. So it kind of choked me up on this end too. All right, sorry for the picture. So in his turn, he went ahead and countercharged into the Crusher. And this unit here, I finally figured out, are Impalers. And the Impalers go ahead and charge into the Morax unit there that had killed his Butchers. You could see that his magic user had moved away from my Crusher, so he could maybe throw spells in his following turn. But really kind of a scrum right up against that impassable terrain. There's just not a whole lot of maneuver going on in this spot. So down on this end, the Abyssal Horseman and the Shadow Hulk easily destroyed my Morax unit. But I was just really trying to get in position here to do some other things. The Shadow Hulk was a big threat because of how many swings it gets, and it hits on 3s. So I was wanting to try to get rid of it. So the thing is I have an advantage in units down here, not units, not good units, but I can just bottle things up with some of these units. So that was the whole purpose of this. And honestly, I charged into that stupid Shadow Hulk on the next turn, I think. But I could have just charged it with the Orclings and then moved my guys out and just chaffed the whole thing up. But I didn't know what he was going to do with his Abyssal Horseman. So down here, the Orclings and charged into the unit of Abyssal Knights. That's just to hold them up. I didn't realize that guy was a separate hero at first, but then I went ahead and charged my Crudger into him to keep him from doing whatever nasty things that Twilight Kin heroes do. I think he was just there to inspire those knights. The Orcs Axe Horde also made a hindered charge into the Giant, and I knew I wasn't going to get him in this turn, but I figured next turn when I can hit on threes again that would put an ouch on him. Just something to the rules committee. What in the hell are you thinking? It is a Giant with morale 20 unbreakable, and it costs less than or the same as a Giant that's just a regular Giant. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. It hits on threes. It has stealthy, and it's I mean, it's so much better than a regular Giant. I mean, it's not even close how much better it is, and the points are the same. So I don't know what to do to Justin. It's just my rant of the day. All right, so his Impalers had done 7 points of damage to my Morax unit. During my turn, though, I charged back in with a unit of Orclings had charged them in the flank, the Morax in the front, and a Crutcher into the front to make sure that they died. I know in return what's going to happen from those Blade Dancers. So I mean, I'm going to catch hell. I mean, I'm only armor 4, and they got so many swings. I've already seen what kind of combat power they have. Over here on the left, I put a unit of Orclings right in front of his. I think those are Impalers as well. I stuck those there, and then I stuck the Crutcher right to one side, so there's no way he could move to get into a better position. Because I'm trying to concentrate my Great Axe Horde that's right here in the middle into this fight, or my Morax regiment that's up there. Either one are quite capable of destroying almost anything in a Twilight Kin army. So that was the point. If you can see down here, I'd also moved the War Drum from the right side of the table over to the left side of the table because I thought with all of his combat units there, I probably needed it there a little bit more. If you can see in the upper left-hand corner, the Crusher had chased down and killed the Mind Thirst. I think I rolled, for 2 turns in a row, I rolled 3 hits, 3 wounds, and then I rolled boxcars to kill it. So I was pretty happy about that. So my dice were doing fairly well. The Crusher that was down here that was fighting his Blade Dancers, of course, got hacked to death. And now he starts using all of that stupid drain life to heal his units back. I think I heard Eric on a podcast one day saying the way that you keep people from healing stuff is that you can't heal units that are chopped to bits. So that was my plan here, was just chop them up in one go. And pretty much anything in these Orc armies, they really can one-shot a lot of stuff, if you get it just right. After this melee up here, I went ahead and left that Orcling regiment right there where he couldn't possibly move. So he's going to have to charge the Orclings in the flank, or into this case, into their rear. And I was just like, that was an annoying move by me, but I think it was the right move because the tall spears I'm not that scared of, but I just don't. I mean, it would surrender the initiative by letting them, get through here and fight me, or to get over here and fight at any kind of even odds. Over here, I did kill his butchers and was aiming at his Shadowhound things. His gargoyles came around the end of the flank. The whole deal of this over here is that in the end, I think we all trade out all the points over here, and it comes out almost dead even because I think each of his units are like 100-something points, and then my unit's around 200 and something. So in the end, I think that the Great Axe dies from those hounds when I turn to look towards something else in the very end. But it was a pretty even swap on this flank as far as points, because if you think about the Mind Thirst died over here and everything, I mean, it was really a push. It was boring flank because I couldn't get, that nasty unit of Great Axe into the fight. But I probably could have just had a unit of Morax over here on this flank, and it would have, and the Orclings, and it would have done just fine. So yeah, the tall spears in the middle had to charge something. In retrospect, I think maybe the thing to do was actually to back up and just let make me fight through all of that junk to get to that unit. But what he did was he rear charged them into the unit of Orclings, which 90 of swings, hitting on 4s, elite. It was going to be a bloodbath. And I joked before the thing, I said, man, you better not roll snake eyes. I don't think I've ever rolled that many dice as what's going to happen, with a Morax in the rear and a Great Axe Horde in the front. And of course, he rolls Snake Eyes. And they were devastated. It was bad. It was bad when he did it. I couldn't believe it. Now, insult to injury, the Impalers on the other side go slamming into that unit of Orclings over there and roll the very exact same thing. He rolled Snake Eyes twice in 2 melees in the same turn. All crucial melees because of just where the positioning of his army was at that point. It was horrible. I just could not believe it. It was, and it wasn't the end of it. I think he rolled 4 Snake Eyes during this game, and I would have went crazy. I mean, I would have been sucking down beer and Xanax, sedatives, everything if I'd rolled 4 Snake Eyes in the same game. Yes, he did chop down the Morax with his Blade Dancers, and he went ahead and sent the 2 magic users over to help out his right flank over here, who was getting ready to fight that big axe horde. You could see that those tall spears are in deep, deep trouble. I mean, there ain't no other way to say it. They're in trouble. The insult to injury part, of course, is that the Orclings who are charged in the rear can now charge that other unit of Blade Dancers in the flank, which is, I know, it's sad, but there's no locked in combat in this game. So it's just, you just charge off whichever way you can every turn. So over here on the right, he did go ahead and kill the Orclings with his Abyssal Knights or Abyssal Horsemen and backed up. The turn before, I had wavered. I forgot. I don't know what that hero is. I think maybe he had Bladed Beast Slayer or something, which does no help against a Crusher or Crutcher. The Shadow Hulk does 7 wounds to the Orc Axe Horde, and the irritating thing is that his 2 crones are going to come over there and start draining life and healing the stupid thing back. So you really have to, with these healing armies, you have to try to kill things in one shot as best as you can. And the Axe Horde is a very effective unit to do that. It would probably be even better, more effective if I had Bane Chant, but I think that's just a luxury in this list. So between the Great Axe and the Morax, they easily destroyed the Kindred Tall Spears. Over on the left, I went ahead and charged the Crusher, who had just killed the Mindthirst, into the back of that unit of Impalers, and then the Crudger charged them in the flank. Of course, the Orclings countercharge again. They're devastated, so they only get 6 wings. But I think they actually did a wound, so I was pretty happy with that. Over on the right, the devastated Orclings and the other Crudger charges into his unit of Blade Dancers. The thing is, the Crudgers are really good roguelike units just because they're armor 5, they've got Inspire, they're mighty, and they make a great chaff unit when you have to use them. I don't find that I always really thought this list needed a lot of inspiring, and it does to a certain point. But if you're not getting hurt, inspiring, you don't need inspiring. And that's where if you can control the fights as much as possible, the need for inspiring is not near as bad as it is with some of the other armies that I play. Over in this corridor, I finally looked down at my list and realized that my unit of not Great Axe, but a unit of Axe actually has a Sculpt Hole. So I popped it at the start of the melee. I also popped the one that was fighting his Soulbane. And ironically, when I got there at the first roll on his Shadow Hulk, I rolled it, killed it easily. Well, the next roll, it was close, and it totaled up to 19. And then I remember that I said that I was using my Sculpt Hole this turn, and that made it 20, and the Shadow Hulk died. I didn't do the same. I didn't hurt the Soulbane this time like I did the last time, but because he was hindered, he was kind of stuck there anyway, and I was able to just and now I've got the unit of Abyssal Horsemen right where I want them. So his hero on the right was wavered the previous turn, so he couldn't do anything this turn. He went ahead and charged the Abyssal Horsemen into the front of the Orc Axe Horde. Orc Axe Hordes are really hard to move. I mean, they are really tough out in this game. And even with the Drain Life, because of their high armor, Drain Life don't work near as well on them as it would against like the Morax units that he was sucking dry over here on this flank. So it's going to be interesting to see the outcome of this fight. So I disregarded his gargoyles, and he charged me in the rear. Just going to get a lot of swings, but it turns out he only did like 5 wounds, so it didn't really bite me in the rear, so to speak. That was horrible. Over here on the left, the Crudger and the Crusher just clear out. I started sending them over to help against the Blade Dancers, and then the Morax went ahead and charged the Impalers in the flank and destroyed them easily. The Crudger and the Orklings fought. I believe he wavered the Crudger this time. I don't think he did not kill him. And so if there was another turn, then the Great Axe Horde was going to get involved, and that would be fatal to anything. On this corridor, I went ahead and charged the Crudger into the fight with the Abyssal Horsemen. I needed to make sure that they would go down this turn. I mean, one thing, they were worth a lot of points. We were playing kill, and so I needed them to die. I also didn't want them to be able to fight me again because I was already teetering on the edge of oblivion. Plus, those 2 magic users are sucking me dry with their drained life. I think in the end, if we would have played another turn past this, I think that his Soulbane could have probably charged the Axe Horde in the rear and destroyed it. Because, like I said, I was already teetering, and then probably some drained life would have killed that unit eventually. I'm not sure that the Soulbane would have survived from just, I know those are little insignificant units, but when you start getting a lot of swings, it does add up. And even the War Drum has Crush 1, so that always helps out in a fight. Crudgers can pretty much fight on their own. They're a very resilient unit and fairly cheap, honestly, for what they do. So I did lose this beautiful horde of Great Axe to that stupid unit of Shadowhounds. They charged me in the rear, and now that I look at it, I probably shouldn't have lost them, because if that's where they charged from, they would have had to went through that difficult terrain, which means they would have lost their thunderous charge and they would have been hindered. So late in the game, may have been too much beer thinking about it, but we just called it at this point because there really was only just a couple of things left on the table for the Twilight Kin army, and part of that was just because of the horrible dice rolling that Jeff had during this game. Before I do my Afterthoughts segment, I just want to thank everyone that came to game night this week. It was the first one we've had in probably a decade that we had a full house for. So we had 6 players on a game night, and just wanted to show you the armies that I brought out here. The reason why I brought them out is because I had all these armies out to use on game night, and 3 people used them. So I was pretty happy to be able to utilize some of my collection. I'm working on that Northern Alliance army. I'm going to fill up those units of old Chaos Marauders and turn them into Klansmen. My Ratkin Slaves is pretty much painted. I just got to base it. And the least painted army is the one I'm using, which is the Orcs. And it's a combination of some really old models I have, and I'm replacing all of those old Black Orcs with the metal ones, so they look a little bit better. And John Helton came over last night and handed me even more Orc boys, so I could paint some more up now and replace those old monopose Orcs from God, I don't know, from the 90s. And anyway, it was a great time for everybody, and just appreciate everybody coming over. So I just want to talk about my army for a little bit. This is basically the master's list all over again, especially this particular version. And I don't use exactly the same thing, but it's pretty close to it. So it's a very effective list. I just wish that I could learn to play it a little better. The big thing that happened this game was the terrain got me, and that's my fault. I set it up. I usually gripe about somebody else, and terrain, this time I did it. So I put the 2 pieces of impassable terrain too close together. So basically the game became like 3 corridors. It was really 3 games, and which is something I despise when I'm setting up terrain, and here I did it to myself. So anyway, that was the big thing. It was the choke point, because like I said, you see how the battle turned out. It was exactly like I'm saying. There were 3 battles, and it kind of came down to the end. The also the terrain really made the help defeat my numbers, because I mean I had more troops and stuff, and more drops, and because of that, the terrain, it made it basically into what I call a tunnel fight, which is just a straight ahead fight. And I had a chance, with the if the train would have been a little bit more spread out, maybe I could have did the classic Eric thing of playing, side to side all the way across the table. But I just couldn't do it. And I did the same thing this game as I did the last one. When somebody's setting up to load a flank, I'd saved that axle word to near the end because I was going to put it on the far end and ended up dropping it there. Where the mistake was is I should have used the one that had Caterpillar down here on this end and then put that. I mean, that's a minor thing. It turned out in the end it didn't really do much. I did sacrifice my Morax unit early on, but I was trying to because of that terrain, and see the choke point was between the edge of the board and that piece of impassable terrain. I wanted to fight him right there. I just didn't want him to go around my army and come in from the sides of everything, because the cavalry and that giant were just, I mean, they're a pretty awesome combination as far as some hammers on that there, and I mean, I did have some stuff there to oppose them, and I guess the fact that I just had numbers of units made that better. Anyway, that's all. I don't play. This is like the third or fourth time I've played against Twilight Kin, and I apologize. I don't know what the name of anything is except like the Abyssal Horseman, and I knew what the Mind Flayer, Mind Thirster thing was, but that's about it. I mean, I just really am not familiar with that army at all. And like I said, I've played against them several times, but they just, most of them are loaded up with shooting, and so it just seems like you get. But this one wasn't loaded up with shooting. This one was a very fair and balanced army, and it really is a tough out. I know that Sean has struggled mightily against this army with his Trident Realms. The particular part that gets the Trident Realms, I feel, is the drain life when you get into the fight, and that is they drain you down, and then they swing, and most of those guys, they're hitting on threes. So against his fish, they're hitting on fours, but they got a lot of swings too, and elite. So that helps them a lot, when it comes to fighting against the ensnare armies. So anyway, Jeff had some horrible dice. He rolled Snake Eyes 4 times. I don't know if it would have changed the end result outcome, but it felt tragic when it happened in the middle of the game. I felt so bad for him. I really did. I mean, like I said, if it would have happened to me, I would have been in a straitjacket going to the hospital, because I get so frustrated with dice, and to roll 4 Snake Eyes in the same game is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous rule anyway. I've always thought it was. I mean, because it's just so changing of the game. And so anyway, Jeff, thanks for everybody that came over for game night. I hope you enjoyed the battle report. Next time I'll actually try to know what the names of all these Twilight Kin units are, and see you next week.